The Alpha King growled, "I do share what's mine," as someone else reached for her. The wind tore through the mountains like a restless spirit, carrying with it the scent of rain and the faint whispers of the cursed forest that lay beyond the northern border of the kingdom. Lightning split the sky, revealing the jagged silhouette of Kaelin's castle perched atop the cliffs, black as obsidian, crowned with frost and shadow. Within its walls, the Alpha King ruled with an iron hand, his name a legend whispered across lands both near and far. No one dared cross him. None except fate itself. Alara ran, the hem of her cloak soaked with mud and rain. Her chest heaved and her fingers dug into the fabric of her torn sleeve. Behind her, distant shouts echoed through the trees, the sound of hunters, or worse, assassins sent to capture her by the rival packs that had cursed her bloodline generations ago. She knew the stories. Those who bore her family's mark were doomed to bring ruin to any who sought them. And yet she ran, not because she feared death, but because she could not allow her fate to be decided by anyone but herself. The cursed forest loomed ahead, black and foreboding. Its trees twisted unnaturally, branches like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. Legend said no one who entered returned the same. Some returned at all. But Alara had no choice. The hunters were closing in, their shadows flickering between the trees like wolves on the hunt. She plunged into the forest, feeling the cold embrace of its magic brush against her skin. The forest did not welcome her. It tested her. The shadows seemed to whisper her name, curling around her mind, planting seeds of doubt. Turn back. You are not meant to survive, but Alara pressed on, her heartbeat matching the rhythm of the storm above. She could not stop. She would not stop. From atop the cliffs, Kaelin watched. The Alpha King, cloaked in a mantle as dark as the night itself, leaned against the parapet of his castle, his eyes like molten gold tracking every movement below. The stories of him were true, yet none could claim to understand him. He was both protector and predator, feared and respected, loved by none and needed by all. Tonight, his attention was caught by a lone figure weaving through the cursed forest, a figure that seemed to burn with a light all its own despite the storm. Kaelin's lips curled into a low, predatory smile. He did not know why, but he could not look away. There was something different about her, something he had not seen in decades, not since. The memory brushed too close and he forced it away. He could not falter now, not when the world around him was so fragile, and yet his instincts roared like the wind. Protect her. Alara stumbled over a root, her ankle twisting painfully. Pain surged, sharp and real, but she pushed forward. She could hear the hunters now, their footsteps slicing through the night, voices harsh and commanding. One of them stepped too close. Without thinking, she ducked beneath a low branch, but the hunter's hand reached for her. A surge of heat ran through her, fear and defiance merging into a single, potent force. And then the world shifted. The hunter fell backward with a grunt, as if an invisible hand had struck him. Alara froze, eyes wide. From the shadows emerged Kaelin, moving with the silence and force of a storm itself. His presence was overwhelming, towering, dark, impossible to ignore. His golden eyes glowed beneath the hood of his cloak, fixing on the hunters like a predator sizing up its prey. "I don't share what's mine," he growled, low and unyielding. His voice carried a weight that made the trees themselves seem to bow. The hunters recoiled, instinctively knowing they had crossed a line they could not survive. Alara's breath caught. She had heard stories of the Alpha King, tales of his power, his ruthlessness, his cruelty, but none of them prepared her for the man who now stood before her. He was terrifying, yet impossibly compelling. Every fiber of her being warned her to flee, yet another part, an almost reckless part, dared her to stay. Kaelin's gaze shifted from the hunters to her. The storm seemed to pause, lightning froze in mid-split, rain suspended in the air. "And you," he said, voice softer now but no less commanding, "why are you here?" Alara straightened, forcing herself to meet his gaze. I run because they want me and because I must survive." Her voice was steady, though her heart raced. "I do not seek your protection." Kalen studied her, eyes narrowing slightly. Few had the courage to speak to him with such defiance. Most would have dropped to their knees, begging for mercy. She did not. A flicker of amusement brushed his features, quickly hidden beneath the mask of the alpha. "You are bold," he said, "or foolish." He stepped closer, and the air between them seemed to crackle with tension. Perhaps both. The hunters, still recovering from their earlier encounter, regained some courage and lunged again. Kalen moved like lightning. His cloak whipped around him as he disarmed one, sent another sprawling, and finally, with a roar that seemed to shake the forest itself, he drove them all away. They vanished into the storm, leaving only the sound of the wind and distant thunder. Alara's legs trembled as she sank to the ground, clutching her ankle. She had survived, but barely. Kalen knelt beside her, his massive hand hovering near her for a moment, testing if she would recoil. She did not. "You should not have come here," he said quietly. Not a command this time, but an observation. His eyes studied her face, the determination etched in her features and the faint trail of blood on her ankle. "It is dangerous." "I have no choice," she whispered. "If I stay in the lands I know, they will catch me. If I run, I risk this forest, but I would rather face death than be taken by them." Her eyes met his, steady and unafraid, and for the first time in years, Kalen felt something unfamiliar, curiosity, and perhaps hope. The storm began to ease slightly, rain falling in a lighter, softer rhythm. Kalen offered his hand, a silent invitation. Alara hesitated, then took it. His grip was firm, almost possessive, and she felt a shiver of both fear and something else, something she could not name, crawl up her spine. As he lifted her to her feet, the forest seemed to whisper warnings once more. Shadows stirred at the edges of the clearing, shapes twisting unnaturally. Kalen's jaw tightened. "They follow us," he said, his voice like steel. "This forest is old, yes, but darker things dwell here, and they are awake tonight." Alara swallowed, sensing the truth in his words. She had felt it, the prickling at the edge of her mind, the invisible weight pressing against her soul. Something watched them, something not entirely alive. Kalen moved first, leading her through the twisted trees, his hand never leaving hers. His presence was both comfort and warning. Each step seemed to echo the unspoken tension between them, an invisible chain binding two unwilling souls together. As they walked deeper, the forest seemed to close in around them. Strange lights flickered in the shadows, and distant whispers curled around them, speaking in languages older than time itself. Alara's heart pounded, but she did not let go of his hand. He, in turn, did not look at her, not yet, but she felt the heat of his gaze like a living thing pressing against her back. Finally, they reached a small clearing where the ruins of an old temple stood, blackened by time and weather. Kalen released her hand but remained close, his stance protective, every muscle coiled as if ready to strike at the unseen threat lurking in the shadows. "You will stay here," he said finally, his tone brooking no argument. "At least until the storm passes." "I do not leave the vulnerable unguarded." Alara's pride bristled. "I am not a child," she said softly, yet she did not move away. "No," Kalen said, almost reluctantly. "You are not, but you are something else, something rare. And rare things must be protected sometimes." His voice dropped, almost a whisper, but it carried weight enough to make her shiver. She wanted to ask what he meant, wanted to understand why he felt so drawn to her, but the forest seemed to close in, whispering its warnings, and she held her tongue. As night fully descended, the storm breaking into a soft drizzle, Alara glanced at Kalen. The Alpha King, the terror of kingdoms, stood there, watching, waiting, as if he were guarding not just her life but something deeper, something he did not yet understand himself. And in that moment, as lightning flashed across the sky and illuminated the ruins around them, Alara understood something she could not yet name. Her journey had only begun, and her life, and perhaps the fate of the Alpha King himself, was about to change forever. From the shadows of the forest, unseen eyes watched, and a low growl rumbled across the trees. Kalen stiffened, instinct screaming as a new presence stirred, something darker, something that neither he nor Ilara could yet face alone. Ilara's breath caught. She turned to Kalen. "What is it?" He did not answer. His eyes, golden and unyielding, scanned the darkness, and then he growled, a sound that was not just a warning but a promise. "I don't share what's mine," he said again, voice low and dangerous, "and no one will take you while I still breathe." The forest seemed to hold its breath, and Ilara realized with a mix of fear and awe, the Alpha King had claimed more than her safety tonight. Somehow, without words or ceremony, he had claimed her heart. And yet, lurking beyond the trees, something else reached for her. The night had thickened into something almost alive. The storm had passed, leaving the cursed forest damp and silent, save for the occasional whisper of leaves stirred by an unseen wind. Kalen moved with silent purpose, his cloak trailing behind him like a shadow of its own, carrying Ilara through twisted paths he knew by memory. The forest seemed to bend around him, yielding, but only just. Ilara stumbled once, catching herself on the gnarled trunk of a tree. "Where are we going?" she asked, breathless. Her voice carried more curiosity than fear now, though the weight of the forest pressed on her chest. "Somewhere safe," Kalen replied, his voice low, carrying that same unyielding power that made the hunters fall. Yet there was something softer beneath it, a hint of care he would never openly admit. "For now." Ilara glanced at him, her gaze tracing the sharp lines of his face, the gold of his eyes that seemed to burn in the dim moonlight. There was power in him, raw and dangerous, but there was also something else, something hidden, sadness, loneliness. She could not name it, but it made her heart ache in ways she had not felt before. "You always protect your territory," she said carefully. "Even from your own people, I've heard." Kalen's jaw tightened. "I protect what is mine," he said simply. "And anyone who dares to threaten it pays." His eyes flicked to hers, and for a moment she thought she saw a flash of something vulnerable, something that hinted at pain beneath the armor of his power. The path they followed opened into a clearing, where the ruins of an old watchtower rose from the forest floor. The stones were cracked and moss-covered, but the place had a strange warmth, as if the magic of the old world still lingered here. Kalen guided her to the base of the tower, kneeling slightly so she could sit on a low stone ledge. "Sit," he commanded, his tone soft but firm. "Rest." Ilara sank onto the ledge, wincing slightly as her twisted ankle protested the movement. She looked around at the ruins, feeling the weight of history in the air. "This place, it feels alive," she whispered. "It is," Kalen said. "The old magic still flows here. It will protect us tonight, if nothing else." He stepped back slightly, scanning the edges of the clearing. His every movement was precise, a predator in his element, yet he did not leave her side completely. The distance between them was measured, not too close, not too far, charged with something unspoken. Ilara's curiosity got the better of her. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "I am not part of your pack. I am a stranger." Kalen's eyes flicked toward her, unreadable. "You are not part of my pack," he said slowly, "but you are something else, rare, dangerous, and valuable." Ilara felt a shiver run through her. She understood the meaning of the word dangerous in the mouth of the Alpha King. It was not a compliment, yet there was weight in his words, something that made her want to know more. They did not speak for a few moments. The silence was heavy but not uncomfortable. The forest seemed to lean closer, as if listening to them. Then Kalen crouched beside her, examining her ankle. His fingers were surprisingly gentle as he touched the swelling, applying a dark salve he pulled from a small vial on his belt. "This will help," he said, his voice quiet, almost intimate. "Do not move too much tonight." Ilara flinched slightly at the touch but did not pull away. "Thank you," she whispered. The words felt small, inadequate against the enormity of what had happened: the forest, the hunters, and the man who had saved her from certain death. Kalen straightened and gave her a long, steady look. "You are brave," he said. "Brave enough to survive this forest, brave enough to stand alone. That is rare. That is why I cannot let anyone take you, not Darius, not anyone." Alara's brow furrowed. "Darius." Kalen's expression darkened. "One of my closest lieutenants, loyal mostly, but ambitious. He will try to take you for his own schemes. He does not know what you are. He does not understand your power." Power. The word struck a chord within her. She had always felt it, this strange current within her bloodline, but she had never understood it. Not fully. And now, in the presence of the Alpha King, she wondered if he could see it, the thing she had always hidden, even from herself. "You fear him," Alara said, her voice careful, "but you do not fear me." Kalen's golden eyes met hers, intense and piercing. "You do not understand fear," he said softly. "Not truly, not like I do, but I do understand danger, and you are in it. I will not let it touch you, not if I can help it." The forest groaned and shifted around them, as if acknowledging his words. A soft mist rose from the ground, curling between the ruined stones, making the clearing seem like a place outside of time. Alara shivered, not from cold but from the weight of the moment. "Why me?" she asked, almost to herself. "Why do you care?" Kalen's jaw tightened. He did not answer immediately. Instead, he moved to the edge of the clearing, scanning the shadows with the patience of a predator. When he spoke, his voice was low, almost reverent. "Because fate has a strange sense of humor," he said finally. "And sometimes it brings things to you you never thought you wanted. You are one of those things." Alara's heart thudded in her chest. She did not know whether to fear or hope, whether to run or stay. She only knew she could not look away from the intensity in his eyes, the way he carried himself like a king, and yet, like someone who had lost more than he would ever admit. Hours passed in silence, the forest around them alive with whispers and shadows. Alara tried to rest, but sleep would not come. She felt the pull of the ancient magic in the ruins, and something inside her stirred, a power she had not yet dared to understand. Kalen noticed the subtle shift in her, the way her eyes flickered with something beyond fear. "You feel it," he said, his voice breaking the quiet. "The forest, the magic, it calls to you. You are connected to it more than you realize." Alara looked at him, startled. I have always felt something," she admitted, "but I do not know what it is." Kalen moved closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. "You will learn, and when you do, you will understand why you were hunted, why they wanted you gone, and why I cannot let that happen." The night deepened, the mist thickening until it seemed the ruins floated in a sea of silver. Alara felt herself trembling, not from cold, but from the weight of what Kalen had said, and from the strange pull she felt toward him. There was danger here, yes. But there was also connection, something older than either of them, something that whispered of destiny. Suddenly, a rustling broke the stillness. Kalen's body tensed immediately, every muscle coiled, eyes glowing in the dim light. From the shadows, a figure emerged, Darius. His face was hidden beneath a hood, but his eyes gleamed with ambition and malice. "You did not expect me to wait," he said smoothly, his voice carrying over the clearing. "And yet, here you are, safe with the Alpha King himself." Kalen growled, a low, dangerous sound that made the mist tremble. "Step back, Darius," he commanded. "You are far from welcome." Darius laughed softly. "Oh, I am welcome wherever I choose," he said. "And tonight I choose her. She is more than just a pawn, she is power. Something you cannot control, Kalen, something that will be mine." Alara's heart raced. She had heard warnings, whispers of Kalen's lieutenants, but Darius had always been a shadow behind the throne. Now he was real, and he was dangerous. Kalen stepped forward, his eyes flashing gold like fire in the darkness. "You dare," he said, voice low and lethal. "You dare touch what is mine," Darius smirked. "It is not yours to claim, not truly. You are king of men, yes, but even kings can be wrong." Alara felt the tension rise like a storm around them. Two forces, powerful and dangerous, circling each other. And in the middle, she felt herself caught, fragile yet important, like the center of a spinning storm. Kaelin's hand shot forward, and in an instant Darius was thrown back against the ruins, winded but not defeated. The forest seemed to pulse with the power between them, shadows flickering unnaturally. Alara's chest heaved as she realized the truth. This was more than a fight for territory, more than a fight for survival. This was a fight for her. Kaelin's golden eyes met hers. "Do not move," he said softly, but the words carried a weight that made her heart skip. "I will not let him touch you," Darius laughed again, rising from the stones. "You cannot control everything, Kaelin," he said, "and one day she may choose me over you." Kaelin's jaw tightened. He stepped in front of Alara, a living barrier of strength and wrath. "She will never choose you," he growled, "and I will not fail her, not now, not ever." The wind howled through the forest, carrying Darius's laughter into the mist. But Kaelin's gaze never wavered from him, and Alara felt a strange sense of safety despite the danger, a feeling she had never known in her life. Yet deep in the shadows of the forest, other eyes watched. Other forces stirred. The cursed forest was alive, and it did not forget. The whispers grew louder, echoing around the clearing, telling of trials yet to come, of dangers beyond Darius, and of a destiny that could bind or destroy them all. Alara swallowed hard. "Kaelin, what is happening to me?" she asked, voice trembling but not from fear alone. Kaelin's expression softened for a brief moment, almost imperceptibly. "You are becoming what you were always meant to be," he said, "and soon we will both see what that truly means." The night seemed to tighten around them, pressing closer, and the forest itself seemed to lean in, waiting. Alara shivered. She did not know what was coming next, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Her life and her heart were no longer entirely her own. The cursed forest seemed alive, breathing around them, twisting and bending in ways that made the world feel unreal. Shadows stretched unnaturally, light flickered between trees like restless spirits, and a low hum echoed through the ground beneath Alara's feet. She clutched Kaelin's arm, relying on his strength, even as her heart raced with fear and something else, something unspoken, something thrilling. "We are close," Kaelin murmured, his golden eyes scanning the darkness ahead. His grip on her hand was firm, unwavering, and for the first time, Alara allowed herself to lean into it, feeling a strange warmth despite the cold night. "Close to what?" she whispered, her voice barely carrying over the whisper of leaves and the distant rumble of thunder. Kaelin's jaw tightened, the heart of the forest and the source of the curse. The words sent a shiver down Alara's spine. She had felt it since the first night she ran into the forest, a shadow that clung to her, a power that whispered in her blood. Now she understood that confronting it would demand more than courage. It would demand everything she had, and perhaps more than she thought she possessed. The trees parted suddenly, revealing a clearing bathed in an eerie silver light. In the center, a circle of ancient stones hummed with power. Shadows twisted and danced across the ground as if alive. Kaelin released her hand but stayed close, a towering figure of authority and protection. "Alara," he said, voice low, almost reverent, "this is where it begins." "You must be strong," Alara swallowed. "I do not know if I can," she admitted, though she felt the strength stirring inside her, awakening like a sleeping fire. "You can," Kaelin said firmly, "and you will. I will not let anything harm you." Not the forest, not Darius, not even fate itself. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The shadows lengthened, rising into shapes darker than night. From the mist emerged the spectral form of the beast Kaelin had spoken of, the curse made manifest. It had glowing red eyes, fangs like shards of obsidian, and a roar that shook the very air. Alara stepped back, heart hammering, but Kaelin did not falter. "This is the darkness we must face," he said, voice steady, "and it will not be defeated by strength alone." Alara's brow furrowed. Then how? Kalen turned to her, his eyes blazing gold. Together, he held out his hand. Alara hesitated, then took it. The moment their hands touched, a pulse of energy passed between them. The forest seemed to react, shadows writhing as if in recognition. Alara felt power she had never known surge through her veins, a connection to the forest, to the ancient stones, to Kalen himself. The beast lunged. Kalen moved first, sidestepping with supernatural speed and striking with precision. But the creature was fast, its claws slicing through the air, leaving trails of darkness that burned against the edges of Alara's vision. "You must focus," Kalen shouted. "Feel the energy." "Use it." Alara closed her eyes, reaching into the well of power inside her. She felt it, a connection to the forest, to the stones beneath her feet, to Kalen's presence. She extended her hands, and a silver light erupted from her palms, pushing the shadows back. The beast recoiled, snarling, its form flickering like a flame in the wind. Kalen's eyes widened, a flicker of awe passing through his controlled exterior. "Good, very good," he said. "Do not stop." Together they battled the creature, their movements in perfect harmony, each anticipating the other's instincts. Alara's confidence grew as she realized the truth. She was not weak. She had power, and with Kalen by her side, they could overcome even this darkness. But just as the beast seemed to falter, a new presence entered the clearing. Darius emerged from the mist, his eyes glinting with malice. "Impressive," he said, his voice carrying through the night. "But you cannot control everything, Kalen, and you cannot protect her forever." Kalen's jaw tightened. "Step back, Darius," he said, voice low and lethal. "You will not touch her." Darius laughed softly, circling them like a predator. "I do not need to touch her. The forest will do it for me. The curse is alive and it recognizes its own. Alara, you are the key, and I will have it." Alara's chest tightened. She felt the shadows press closer, sensing Darius's ambition, feeding off it. She realized with a jolt that he was not just a threat to her body. He was a threat to the very bond she was forming with Kalen. The thought made her heart ache. Kalen stepped in front of her, his stance protective, every muscle coiled. "Not tonight," he growled, "and not ever." The spectral beast, sensing the new danger, let out a deafening roar and surged forward. Kalen moved like lightning, intercepting it, but the creature's claws grazed him. Pain flashed across his face for a brief moment, and Alara felt a surge of fear she could not contain. "Kalen," she shouted, rushing forward, but he held up a hand. "Focus," he barked. "I am fine. Trust yourself." Alara took a deep breath, closing her eyes. She reached into the silver light inside her, letting it flow through her body, connecting with Kalen's energy, with the forest itself. A brilliant beam of light shot from her hands, striking the beast and pushing it back. It howled, a sound that echoed through the clearing like the cries of the damned, before vanishing into the mist. For a moment, silence fell. Only the soft hum of the stones remained, vibrating with power and life. Alara opened her eyes, breathless, and saw Kalen standing before her, his cloak torn but his eyes shining with pride and something softer, admiration, perhaps even awe. "You did well," he said, voice low. "You are stronger than you know." Alara's heart thumped, but her focus shifted immediately. Darius still stood at the edge of the clearing, smirking. "Clever," he said, "but the forest is only the beginning. The curse is not so easily defeated. And neither is your bond, fragile though it may be." Kalen's hand went to her shoulder, steadying her. "We will face it," he said, "together, you and I, and no one will come between us." Darius's smile faltered. He stepped back, vanishing into the mist with a final warning. "This is not over," he called. "She will belong to power, not love, and you will see it soon." Kalen's jaw tightened, but his attention was fully on Alara. "You are safe now for the moment," he said softly, "but we must move. The forest will not let us linger." Alara nodded, feeling the power inside her settle, mingling with the fear, the relief, and the strange, thrilling pull toward Kalen. she realized something that made her chest ache. She did not want to be anywhere else, did not want to run from him or the danger. She wanted to understand him, to understand herself, to face whatever was coming together. They moved deeper into the forest, following a narrow path that twisted unnaturally. Strange lights flickered in the shadows, and Alara felt her connection to the forest growing stronger, her power awakening in ways she had never imagined. She reached out, feeling the energy of the stones, the trees, and Kalen's presence intertwined with her own. "You are learning quickly," Kalen said quietly, "faster than I expected. Soon you may be able to command the forest itself." Alara's eyes widened. "Command it?" "Yes," Kalen said, "but that comes with responsibility, with danger. The curse is older than any of us, and it will test you as it tests me." The forest seemed to respond to his words, shadows twisting into shapes that whispered of past battles, lost souls, and ancient power. Alara's heart raced, but she felt a strange calmness in the midst of the chaos. She was not alone. Kalen's presence grounded her, even as the forest tried to overwhelm her senses. As they reached a small clearing near a silver stream, Alara paused. The water glimmered unnaturally, reflecting not the moon, but visions of the past and the future. She saw flashes of herself, powerful and commanding, standing beside Kalen, facing threats and shadows she could not yet understand. Kalen noticed her staring. "Do you see it?" he asked. I think so," she whispered. "Is that the future?" "Possibly," he said. "Or a warning." The forest shows what may be, not what must be. We shape our own destiny together. Alara felt a warmth spread through her chest, a combination of fear, longing, and something deeper, something that made her heart ache and her mind swirl. She glanced at Kalen, and for a brief moment the distance between them vanished. She wanted to trust him completely, to let him in, but the danger lingered. Darius was still out there, the curse was not gone, and the forest itself was alive. Kalen seemed to sense her hesitation. He reached out, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. His hand lingered, warm and solid, and Alara felt a shiver run through her. "Do not be afraid," he said softly. "Whatever comes next, we will face it together." A low growl echoed from deeper within the forest. The silver mist swirled unnaturally, and the shadows stretched further, darker than before. Alara's heart pounded. She knew the next trial was coming, and this one would test them both, body and soul. Kalen's eyes narrowed, golden light blazing. "Hold on to me," he said, voice steady and commanding, "and trust yourself. The curse will test you, but we will not fail. Not now. Not ever." Alara nodded, gripping his arm, feeling a surge of power and courage she had never known. Together they stepped into the deeper shadows of the forest, where the air grew colder, the mist thicker, and the whispering voices louder. The cursed forest waited, ancient and relentless, its secrets dark and dangerous. And in the distance, a figure watched, silent, patient, and filled with a malice that neither Kalen nor Alara could yet face. The forest trembled as if alive, its ancient power pulsating through the roots and stones beneath Kalen and Alara's feet. The mist swirled, thick and silver, obscuring the shapes around them, yet the glowing red eyes of the shadowed figure pierced through it like knives. Towering, cloaked in darkness, it radiated a force that pressed on the heart and mind alike. Kalen placed himself between Alara and the shadow, golden eyes blazing like twin suns. His cloak whipped around him in the wind, and he roared, a sound of pure power and command that echoed through the forest and made the ground tremble. "Stay behind me," he shouted. "Trust yourself, Alara. We end this together." Alara's heart pounded, but she did not move. She had come too far to run. The silver energy she had summoned before coursed through her again, stronger now, mingling with Kalen's presence. She could feel the pulse of the forest itself responding to her, bending to the will of their combined strength. "I'm ready," she said, her voice firm, steady, yet tinged with awe. "Tell me what to do." Kalen nodded, barely concealing the pride in his gaze. "Focus on your bond with the forest. Let it guide you, And remember, I am here, always." The shadow surged forward, faster than the eye could follow. Kalen met it with a roar, striking first, golden light flaring from his hands. The force collided with the shadow, sending ripples through the mist, but it was only momentarily slowed. The red eyes glowed brighter, as though sensing fear or hesitation, seeking weakness. Alara closed her eyes and reached deep within herself. She felt the forest's heartbeat, felt Kalen's heartbeat mirroring hers, and let their energies intertwine. Silver light exploded from her palms, weaving with the golden radiance of Kalen. Together, they created a lattice of power that pushed the shadow backward. "You are stronger than it knows," Kalen said, voice steady but urgent. "Do not falter." Alara's confidence surged. She had never felt such strength, such clarity. She extended her hands fully, and the light stretched outward, bending the forest's shadows into shapes of protection, shields of silver and gold encasing them. The shadow hissed, recoiling as though burned by unseen fire, but it did not retreat completely. "You are powerful," a voice boomed from the figure, distorted and echoing. "But your hearts are still divided. One cannot save the other unless both surrender." Kalen's jaw tightened. "I surrender nothing," he growled. "Not to you, not to fear, not to the curse." Alara stepped closer to him, her hand brushing his. "I surrender to us," she said softly, "to what we can do together." The words seemed to strike the shadow like a blade. Its form wavered, cracking at the edges, the red glow dimming. It shrieked, a sound that tore through the forest, bending the air and shaking the trees. Kalen turned to her, eyes burning with pride and something deeper, almost reverent. "Do it," he said. "Together, one heart, one bond." Alara took a deep breath, centering herself. She reached for the forest, for the stones, for the energy of the cursed land. She could feel it answering her call, shaping itself around her will, bending to the bond she and Kalen shared. Light and shadow collided in the clearing, twisting, pulsing, a storm of energy so vast it made the ground quake. Kalen and Alara's hands met fully, palms touching, fingers intertwining, and together they released their power in a final surge. The light engulfed the shadow completely, illuminating the forest, the mist, the ancient stones. A scream echoed, long and fading, until silence returned. When the glow dimmed, the clearing was still. The shadow was gone. Only the whisper of leaves, the gentle rustle of the wind, and the faint hum of the stones remained. Alara sank to her knees, breathing heavily, overwhelmed by the power she had unleashed. Kalen knelt beside her, one large hand resting on her shoulder, his golden eyes soft now, almost tender. "You did it," he said, voice low, almost a whisper. "We did it." Alara looked at him, awe in her eyes. "We." Kalen smiled faintly, a rare, genuine expression that softened the hardness of his features. "Together," he said. "Nothing else matters when we stand as one." For the first time, Alara felt the full weight of what had happened. The curse, the forest, the shadow, everything that had threatened her, that had chased her through storms and darkness, was gone. And yet the victory was more than physical. It was emotional. They had faced fear, darkness, and power, and emerged not just alive, but stronger. Kalen extended a hand, helping her to her feet. The forest seemed to sigh around them, the trees stretching tall and calm, the mist thinning into gentle silver streams. "You are remarkable," he said, voice quiet, almost vulnerable. "Stronger than anyone I have ever known. And yet you did not lose your heart, that is rare." Alara's cheeks flushed. "I could not have done it without you," she admitted. You were there, always." Kalen's gaze softened, golden light flickering in his eyes like sunlight through the leaves. "And I will always be," he said, "no matter what comes next." The storm clouds parted above, revealing the first light of dawn spilling over the forest. It painted the world in silver and gold, as if the forest itself celebrated their victory. But victory did not mean peace. Darius had not been seen in the clearing, and Alara knew the threat was not completely gone. The shadow of ambition and malice lingered in the world outside the forest, waiting, watching. Kaelin, sensing her thoughts, spoke before she could voice them. Darius will come again, he said, tone grim, but he will not succeed, not while I stand and not while you stand with me. Alara nodded, feeling a strange calm settle over her. She had faced darkness, discovered power within herself, and stood beside the Alpha King, no longer a frightened fugitive but a partner, a force to be reckoned with. Kaelin, she began, hesitant, what happens now, with everything? Kaelin took her hands in his, holding them firmly but gently. Now we rebuild, he said. We protect what is ours, not just from others but from ourselves, from fear, from doubt, from anything that would tear us apart. Alara felt tears prick at her eyes. For so long her life had been chaos, fear, and running. Now there was a future, uncertain yet bright, waiting for her. And Kaelin, the Alpha King feared and revered across the lands, would be there with her, not as a ruler demanding submission, but as someone who shared the burden, the power, the bond. The forest around them seemed to hum, alive with magic, as if recognizing the new harmony between them. The stones of the clearing shimmered faintly, their ancient energy now at peace. Kaelin lifted her hand to his lips, brushing it gently against his golden mouth. You are mine, he said softly, not with ownership but with promise. Not by force but by bond, by choice, and I will protect you always. Alara's heart swelled with a warmth she had never known. She had feared power, feared darkness, feared the strength within herself. But now she realized that love, true, unbreakable love, was the greatest power of all. I choose you, she whispered, voice trembling but clear. Always. Kaelin's golden eyes softened, and for the first time he allowed himself to smile fully, without restraint. The storm of the night was gone, the shadows banished, and a new day dawned. They stood together in the clearing, the cursed forest now calm, silver mist drifting lazily around their feet. For a moment, all was quiet, all was still, and the world seemed to breathe around them. Yet even in peace, the forest had its secrets. From the shadows beyond the trees, other forces watched, ancient and silent. But for now, Kaelin and Alara had triumphed. Together, they had faced the darkness, tamed the curse, and discovered the depth of their bond. Kaelin lifted her onto the ledge of the clearing, holding her close as the first rays of sunlight bathed them in gold. The world is vast, he said softly. Full of threats, yes, but also full of beauty, and I will face it all as long as you are with me. Alara rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her cheek. Then we face it together, she said, voice barely above a whisper. He kissed the top of her head, a promise unspoken but understood. Together, he echoed. The forest whispered around them, ancient and alive, and for the first time in a long while, Alara felt truly safe. The curse had ended, but their story, full of love, courage, and destiny, was only beginning. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the forest and the mountains, the wind carried a soft echo of possibility. Kaelin and Alara stood united, the Alpha King and the one who had awakened his heart, ready to face whatever future awaited them, side by side, unbreakable, unstoppable.